But I do want to bookend all of this with this whole kerfuffle, this kofefe that this was, is just the game development equivalent of Samus losing her powers early on and having to start from scratch, and by the end, it'll be better than it ever was. Right? And that is my hot take. What? Uh-huh. What up, kids and squids? Welcome to the Nintendo Everything Podcast, episode the 13th. As ever, I am your host, Oni Dino. With me, I have a space pirate who's failed basic training 4 times. Ridley is not happy with his performance. It's Galen.
You put down the answers, you study all night. Enlistment should not be restricted to just a single test. Like, I don't get it. It should be overall performance more than anything.
I feel like you've missed out entirely on the physical part of the basic training.
Well, that's actually how I got into the recruitment. It was the
Galen, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you doing, Oni?
I'm doing well. Galen, you are my best friend.
As you are mine.
Oh, how lovely. I realized something. I mean, I knew this about myself, but I realized it again very, very vividly. I have this crucial character flaw, okay? Where the more I know somebody, the less patient I am with them. And so I think, dear listeners, you can hear just how impatient I am with Galen, and that just shows my love. That's really what it is. It's a character flaw. It's a personal problem. I'm going to work through it somehow.
It's definitely a problem. I'm glad you admitted it. That's definitely the first step.
Holy hot damn, we got a lot of news this week. We really do. We got big things to talk about, like the Metroid Prime 4 story and rumors that are blowing up as we speak. It's a developing story, so we're going to be checking the website as we're talking here. Then we also got Furukawa's new comments about the state of Nintendo Switch, the amazing Nindie Showcase that happened way earlier this week with a ton of great game announcements and just so much more good stuff to talk about.
It's kind of surprising that all this is happening at the last second, so I feel like you guys are going to get a lot more of our raw emotions and raw reactions when it comes to this.
We're raw vlogging it. That's what we're doing.
Don't ever say raw vlog again. That just sounds so wrong.
I did it on purpose. So a quick reminder before we jump into everything that this is a weekly show, yada, yada, yada. You can find it on podcasts, wherever they can be heard, all that junk. Each week's episode goes out live on Sundays in the States. iTunes and Spotify listeners get it bright and early on Sunday morning. And our website and YouTube comes out midday-ish. And no matter where you're listening, check out that description for timestamps if you need them. Particularly helpful for the YouTube crowd, if I say so myself. All right, we can't waste any more time, so let's turn on some gourmet race music and get going right into our adventure log. So as for me on my adventure log this week, I got nothing. A whole fat load of nothing, because I've been so crazy busy on the west coast of the United States. Any moment I had in downtime, I had to start working, so no gaming happened for me this weekend. And it's particularly sad because my hot boy, Travis, and his game, Travis Strikes Again, that came out this week. And I had literally no time to play, so it's just so sad.
Oh,
so Galen, why don't you tell me what you've been playing?
Did that game come out this week? I haven't heard you talk about it at all. Like, are you sure?
Yeah, it came out this week. I got it.
Oh, did you? Tell me what that game's about again. I don't remember you like saying much of anything before. Anyway.
Your voice sounded so genuine that I thought that you were serious, and then I was like, is this idiot not listening to what I'm saying? Like, I just told you I didn't play it.
And that's how I get you.
We're 5 minutes in, and this is already going... It's going peach up. It's going peaches up.
I actually can't blame you too much. I didn't get a whole lot of gaming in myself. I did manage to break away. I'm still in non-Nintendo land right now. I managed to get my hands on the Resident Evil 2 demo for a little while.
Nintendo Land is such a good game. Tell me about Resident Evil 2 demo. Tell me about it.
Oh my god, this game is for one, it's gorgeous. It's not only how the game looks, but how they presented it. They repackaged it, and how it feels so much. This is how you do a remake. It feels like the older games, yet it looks something new and incredible.
Yeah.
It's almost hard to put into words exactly the kind of nostalgia and at the same time mystery that is packaged within this game. Just playing the demo. Like, I was so enticed to want to go out and explore more of the rooms, which is a problem because they only give you 30 minutes to do it, and there's no replaying it unless you come up with another profile that you have to create.
Yeah, I wish they would have given you an hour, right? Because that would have let you just have time in those rooms.
And I'm so excited to see that puzzles are coming back. I'm so excited that there's so much more to explore. I really am excited. I'm excited to see that this is a return to form for Capcom understanding what made these original Resident Evil games so great. And I'm really excited to see if they kind of bring this out and bring this to the Switch, for example.
Well, we did see Resident Evil 7 come to the Switch in cloud form. So I wouldn't be surprised if the RE2 remake came to Switch in cloud form, but I don't think we're going to see it like natively running on the Switch.
Yeah. So who knows? I'm excited. The actual game just came out the day of this recording, and oh my god, I cannot wait to play it when we can finally get past all of this news that's here.
I know, right? There's so much to talk about, so let's get it done so we can go bust some zombies up, huh?
All right, let's jump on in.
So jumping right into our biggest news story of this week is the news that Metroid Prime 4 is having a reshuffled development. Actually, the current development is being more or less scrapped, and then now it's switching over to another studio. So there's a lot to this story. There's rumors and there's facts, and we got a lot. So I'm thinking let's break it down into chunks, and then we'll give our hot takes on that, and then we'll give a final estimation of the story. Does that sound good?
That sounds good. And I think we should focus on the facts first before anything else.
Abso-freaking-lutely, because man, am I tired of just rumor mongering. I'm super tired of that in the video game industry. So, all right, here we go with the facts. First up is that a YouTube video went live on Nintendo's official channels. It's of Shinya Takahashi stating that Nintendo is restarting Metroid Prime 4's development. He even says, quote, "The current development status of the game is very challenged, and we had to make a difficult decision as a development team." So basically, whatever's been happening is more or less scrapped, and then now, the big news in this, development is now moving over to Retro Studios, which is the Texas-based second party owned by Nintendo. Retro Studios, for eagle-eared listeners, is the studio that developed the first 3 games in the Prime series. So this is very, very interesting to hear.
Yeah, and this is fantastic to me. I am totally okay with them coming out and saying, hey, listen, we didn't like what we were making before. We don't think it was up to snuff. We don't think it's up to par. We want to bring you something special. So we're going to get in contact with the people who made it special in the first place.
Yeah.
They have put a lot of trust. They have put a lot of faith in Retro Studios. And they haven't actually been making a whole lot of games for Nintendo recently. Because they made the first 3 Metroid Prime games. I believe they also made some of the more recent Donkey Kong games like Tropical Freeze.
Yeah, they definitely made Tropical Freeze. I can't remember if they made the Donkey Kong Country Returns on the Wii or not. I want to say they did.
Yes.
They did, okay, yeah. By the way, Tropical Freeze is a brilliant freaking game. It is one of the best games that has come out of Nintendo in like 10 years.
Yeah.
So, side note on that. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, they made Tropical Freeze, they made Donkey Kong Country Returns, they made the first 3 Metroid Prime games. They also had a hand in making Mario Kart 7, the one that was for the 3DS.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. I don't think they had, like, full control over that one. It was just like they were partnered with that one.
Yeah. There's a lot of times that, like, on a bigger thing where, like, a portion of it is developed by this core team and then it gets moved over to this team, and maybe the bug testers on this team are free at the time. So it's just kind of like where resources are available within the umbrella that is Nintendo.
Exactly. All of those things said and done, Retro Studios has a pedigree for making fantastic games.
Yeah.
Every single one of these games are phenomenal, and while they don't have a lot of games under their belt, what they have been able to produce have been golden.
Yeah.
For Nintendo to come up front and just be honest and say, hey, listen, we're making this game. We need to start from the beginning to make sure this is something that's special for you. That says so much to me about Nintendo as a company, and you know what this makes me think of? It makes me think of the fact that the first time we really saw a developer wanting to take ownership to making sure they are coming out with quality is Nintendo. And that was the Nintendo quality of seal of quality back in the days of the NES and the Famicom.
Yeah, that makes total sense, because that was right after the video game crash happened definitely in the West. I don't know if the East was really affected.
It was an oversaturation of the gaming market. It was too many people can go ahead and make whatever game they want to, and they were just flooding the market with these lackluster, E.T. I'm just going to say that, just E.T. came out.
Like, you didn't need a license to make a video game at that time, so that's when Nintendo was like, okay, you need to get a license from us in order to make a game, and that's sort of our way to respond to poor quality complaints.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They have, from the very beginning of their video gaming history, because Nintendo has been a company for longer than they've been making video games for.
Well, longer.
But they have introduced themselves as a video game company standing by the standpoint of they want to give quality games. And these kind of actions show that even 30 years later, they are still following through, and they are still following on that belief of, we want to bring something to you that is going to make you smile and you are going to enjoy. Even though this means I did technically lose that bet that we had. I'll be the first one to say it. I kind of, as soon as this went live, that was actually my first thought that came up.
Oh, that's lovely. I live in this filth. This is great.
So this is my roasted crow that has been presented to me. I'm just going to go ahead and start dining into this one. As somebody who desperately wants to see innovation and what has sort of become a stagnant media market with all of the sequels and all of the reboots and everything like that. And I see the irony of that talking about Metroid Prime 4.
Yes.
But
I was just about to be like, excuse you.
Yeah, seriously.
So I'm in the same boat as you, except I think it's a little bit less romanticized of a boat. First off was a huge wave of disappointment that crossed my emotions. I was like, damn it, now we have to wait even longer for a Metroid game. But just a couple seconds later, I was like, all right, I'm cool with this though, because a couple of major reasons. One, of course, it's going over to Retro Studios, and even though, there's not the same developers and staff working at that studio as there were back when the first 3 Prime games came out. Metroid Prime 1 was in development nearly 20 years ago.
Yeah.
This studio has, like you said, made a whole bunch of great games, great pedigree. I have faith that this is a great choice for them. I don't know exactly who was developing it before. I thought it was Bandai Namco, but somebody corrected me on our website saying, no, that wasn't confirmed. So anyway, whoever was making it before, now that it's going over to Retro, I think that's a good thing. The other point that I want to make is that when you have big delays like this, and then suddenly there is this outpouring of support, and of course the Metroid fan base is a vocal minority in the first place, so Nintendo knows that there's big passionate fans about that. They even said so in this video. But when you have something like this happen, an even larger outpouring of support comes out for this game. It was all over Twitter.
Yeah.
Nintendo is hearing that for sure, and that leads to good things. I'm trying to look at this in the most positive way, right? Because of course I'm bummed. I'm like, I wanted Metroid like either this year or next year. I wanted it.
I think a lot of people do, and I think that was part of their original plan. Especially when you start hearing some of the rumors that are coming out at the same time, which we'll get into in a bit.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was very much their plan to come out and at least officially announce or give more details on Metroid Prime 4 this year.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm sure this was a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, because I mean, once you scrap like a huge portion of development, that's just lost money. You know what I mean? As a company, companies hate to operate that way. That's why you see a lot of terrible products come out of video games, or at the very least divisive products like Fallout 76, because even if something is not going great, sometimes it's like, well, we're in too deep. We got to make the best of this kind of situation.
Yeah.
So going back to what you said before is the transparency on this is great. And I absolutely applaud them for the transparency, and not just like making a statement, making a video and having one of their main guys, Shinya Takahashi, come out there, show his face, apologize, and, you know, do the Japanese thing, of course. But it shows so much responsibility, and I really appreciate that on a business level and as a consumer. And it makes me just happy to support Nintendo.
And I feel like this is why Nintendo has been around as long as they have as a company. Like, they take responsibility in the product that they're actually putting out. And I hate to say it, but that is so rare in a lot, especially like Western business practices.
Yeah, I would say so too. Like, I do think that this is ultimately, all of this is business moves, right? Because they're a business and they want to keep their business afloat and keep their business pumping out games and making money, right?
Of course.
So that's the main reason that they're doing this. However, when they're this transparent, it feels a lot less like a business move and more of like a respect to their consumers. And that's great. That makes the consumer want to support you.
Exactly. I feel like this was also a very smart move to do, because all you had to do was make a YouTube video and have one of your main guys talk about it, and then all of a sudden you've invoked so much more interest. If you're looking at this from an advertisement sense, I mean, the publicity of what you just did alone is so much more worth the risk that you actually put into it.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, conspiracy theorists will be like, oh, they did this intentionally because of blah, blah, blah. Like, whatever. I'm not entertaining.
There's always going to be those guys. So
crazy mouth. That's what that is. I'm not entertaining it. I don't want sexually transmitted crazy mouth. So moving on to the rumors portion of this news, right? So that's all the facts, right? So let's, keep it separate. So shortly after this news came out, suddenly rumors, and in particular, the biggest rumors that we're getting are from Game Informer, from the senior editor, or one of the senior editors, I should say. And I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Imran Khan. He says that the Metroid Prime trilogy for Nintendo Switch, quote, been long done, end quote. And it was supposed to be announced last month, and also, quote, more Metroid stuff, end quote, is in the works. So that's beautifully vague. You know what I mean? Like, that's more like people being like, oh, it's gonna rain. You know what I mean? But at the same time, the Metroid Prime trilogy, that one's more specific and everything. But I don't know. I take some concerns with this. So moving on to the next rumor that they're churning out. The same guy, same Game Informer thing. I'm just going to read this quote here. Quote, the big problem with Metroid Prime 4 development was Nintendo's experimental ad hoc development process. It was being made in parts in different countries. Some studios were trucking along saying it was going smoothly while it was on fire elsewhere, end quote. So, I mean, that's some stuff they said. And we should point out that this is a development style that is not uncommon in the modern gaming industry.
Yeah.
A great commenter on our website that I want to point out, his or her name is Nemo37. They said Ubisoft, EA, Western Sony Studios, Square-Enix, and Rockstar have all used this approach to develop their games recently. So it's not some sort of like oh my god, what are they doing? There's doom and gloom at Nintendo. They don't know how to run their bit. You know what I mean? It's not that.
Yeah.
And then the very third part that we'll go into, and then we'll start discussing this. Gonna read this quote here. Quote, internal thinking was that it needs to be all under one roof to right the ship. Interestingly, Retro made the pitch for their involvement and put together a demo that Nintendo liked. End quote. So ultimately, I'm skeptical on all of this because, like, my biggest thing about this is, oh, Metroid Prime trilogy, Metroid Prime 4 development stuff, big story. It's all over the internet right now. And suddenly, what do you know? You've got rumors to talk about just out of nowhere. What a coincidence. How convenient, you know?
Mm-hmm.
This sounds a bit like advantageous on their part, you know, because everybody wants to be like, oh, what's the Metroid Prime story? So everyone's clicking on it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is definitely skeptical of me. Spectacle. And and so,
this
you know.
Is definitely spectacle. I'm going to spectacle this.
Yeah. Spectacle all over it. That's a bit of the craziness, right, coming out. But that's just me being like skeptical of a rumor in the first place. So
yeah,
that's where I'm at on that.
No, I'm really surprised that there are already rumors that popped up so quickly about this, because
how convenient.
These rumors showed up like literally an hour after this went live.
Mm-hmm.
It was ridiculous. It was just like, hey, we're gonna be delayed, and then somebody screaming in the back corner, I know why. It was ridiculous. So I definitely agree with you when it comes to that. You know, suspicious timing.
Also, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but also, like, everything that they're saying is not actually of substance. It's more like, oh, this is what went down. Like, it doesn't matter, actually. It doesn't matter what they said here. And
yeah,
it's more like somebody's, like, educated guess based on basic knowledge of how businesses work or businesses in the video game industry work.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't, even if this is, like, entirely true.
And it's more suspicious specifically because there was so little we knew about Metroid Prime 4 to begin with.
Yeah.
So, I mean, breaking it down, the comment about, oh, they have the Metroid Prime trilogy already laying in wait. I mean, possibly. It makes sense. It makes sense to me that they, you know, because we haven't really seen much of an advancement on this since it originally came out for the Wii.
Yeah, right.
Because, yeah, I don't think they did anything for the Wii U.
They released it on the eShop as one of those, like, Wii
that's
games.
what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to second guess myself on that.
That's fine.
But if they already are in the process and they already know how to convert that over on the eShop, all the assets are there. All the development is there. You just have to figure out how to switch. That was funny.
Oh my god.
Going from the Wiimote to the Joy-Con controller. I totally believe that they might have that in the back, but again, there's nothing to support this rumor.
Right,
it's coming out of nowhere, and it's just like,
it's one of those things that lots of people have been talking about for a while. It has been, like, rumored for a while for no concrete reason other than people just want it. And I mean, that's good. People should be talking about what they want on the internet because developers like Nintendo do listen to some degree. So I'll be surprised if this never happens. Believe me, I want it to be, like, announced tomorrow. I really want it because I love those 3 games, and just playing it on the Switch would be great.
Well, and it also goes along with pushing back their plans and everything that they had for it. I mean, if they were going to announce a trilogy, they were going to announce it around the same time they were talking about this. And if my suspicions were correct and they really were going to rely on Metroid Prime as their big seller for this year, getting that hype up, it makes so much sense to launch both of these at the same time.
But Pokemon and Animal Crossing are coming out this year. Like, I would say that Animal Crossing reaches a bigger audience than Metroid does, even with all of the hype and even with all of the support that this series has that it's never had before. I still don't even think it reaches Animal Crossing levels of appeal.
Yeah. Well, and also playing devil's advocate a little bit on this one, Pokemon for the Switch isn't in much of a better situation than Metroid Prime is. I mean, Metroid Prime, you at least had a logo and an animated thing. title sequence to go along with it.
We've heard sort of disagree on that, though.
What have we heard about Pokemon for the Switch?
What
have we seen?
In terms of what we've heard, you are super correct. But in terms of like a Pokemon game, like even if they change up the formula to some degree, it's a Pokemon game through and through. Like there's not going to be too many surprises. There's going to be more familiarities than there is going to be surprises on that game. So I have no doubt that development is going smoother on that game in the background than Metroid was going smoother, and that's even before the news today about development being shut down. That's my opinion.
I would believe that they have more resources going into it, but we also have the developer, the guy leading the Pokemon game, saying that it's hard to come up with a game for the Switch because they are challenging themselves on way to innovate the series and make it more than just a flashy thing coming out here, or coming out onto the console. Like, it's not that different from where we were at with Metroid Prime 4, except we hadn't heard those details on how the development was coming along just yet.
Yeah, and from an information perspective, I totally agree with you, but just from my personal knowledge of how Pokemon has been in all of their releases and all of their consistent releases, and all of the assets that they kind of reuse and retouch, and they're not starting from scratch on a lot of different things. I really feel I would be shocked to hear that Pokemon is having like troubles like Metroid Prime, or that Metroid Prime was going better than Pokemon or something.
Well, and see, this is kind of where I agree with you, because
I thought that's where we disagreed. I'm confused.
So let me put it this way. I was making the reference to Pokemon in an essence of just a general information standpoint, and how there has been this hype built up for the game on, hey, Pokemon's coming out in 2019, but we haven't heard anything. So
yeah, I'm sure something
because we haven't heard anything, we haven't seen anything, it's entirely within reason to believe that there might be some unexpected delays coming out on this. Not that I'm saying that there is. I'm just saying I could see that possibility being there.
I could see that happening, but I don't think that the lack of information on the title thus far is indicative that there is going to be a delay, or indicative that there could be a delay. I don't think that that is anything at all. I think that that is just marketing, because you don't want to announce Pokemon information when you're trying to push out another game in the Pokemon series at the end of the year. You don't want, you want to focus on that. Otherwise your marketing is going to cannibalize your marketing, and then you're going to have poor sales. That's what I think.
I would agree with you on that one. What I do agree with you more so is that the announcement of Metroid Prime 4 being delayed right now, I believe Nintendo is going to reallocate its resources and put more of a focus on getting that Pokemon game out. Like,
I super didn't say that though. Don't put words in my mouth. I'll slap you. I will. I'll slap you. I got two hands and they're slap happy. But I do get your point.
Yeah.
Honestly, when you said that, I was like, "Oh, that's a cool thought." Yeah, and then you said that I said that, and I didn't say that. Don't you put no words in my mouth. I'll fight you. That is an interesting point. I wonder like where it was being made in terms of in-house, out-of-house, at a different developer, like whatever. Like suddenly resources got freed up somehow, and I wonder if they're going to be able to use those resources for maybe Pokemon, for the next game, for whatever. That's also an interesting point of view that I haven't thought of.
And I mean, we were just talking about this not too long ago. We were talking about what are we going to be expecting later this year? Are we going to be expecting them to talk about Metroid? Are we going to expect them to talk about Pokemon? They also have Animal Crossing. They also have Luigi's Mansion 3. I mean, they have a lot of games, but it feels like a lot to kind of pack into one area, and some of these games we haven't heard anything about. So if we are now talking about what is Nintendo going to do for the rest of the year, what does this announcement that Metroid Prime 4 is being severely delayed, they're starting from scratch, what does this affect Nintendo-wise? I don't feel like this is going to affect much of what we are going to see right now, other than changing some of our educated guesses that we have.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's going to, for this year alone, I don't think it's going to affect really anything other than announcements and footage of Metroid. Because of course, Metroid Prime 4, they're not going to be showing that. So, that's the only thing I think is really going to be affected for this year. I don't think that this game, that Metroid Prime 4 was even going to come out this year.
Yeah.
based on what we had seen in some infographics before, where there was a lot of stuff listed as 2019. That one, though, was listed as and beyond.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just going to have to see. And I don't give a damn about these rumors and, the whispers and stuff. Like, whatever.
The important thing is I lost the bet.
That is super important. Thank you for bringing it up. I'm so happy. But I do want to bookend all of this with this whole kerfuffle, this kofefe that this was, is just the game development equivalent of Samus losing her powers early on and having to start from scratch, and by the end, it'll be better than it ever was. Right? And that is my hot take. What? Uh-huh.
That is the most beautiful analogy I have heard in my life.
High-fiving a million angels right now. That's what I'm doing.
I have actual tears of joy. That was beautiful.
Oh, thank you. That's so flattering. Arigato.
You know what? Just for that, I'm taking back one of the puns I was going to make this episode. So you are very well. Thank you for that.
Oh my god. Okay, let's move on. Are you done?
No.
Oh my god, I hear cackles. I came up with that earlier today, and I feel pretty proud about it.
You should be proud of that.
Thank
That
you.
was amazing.
I'm sure I'm not the first person to have thought about that, though.
Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
Mamma mia!
So on to our next story here. We got apparently weekly comments from Furukawa with his interviews. Like, for the last 3 weeks, right? We've had some more stuff. So because of that, moving on, I'm introducing this as a segment, okay? That's what's happening. I'm calling it Furukawa Kombat.
Furukawa Kombat!
Dun, 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 dun. We're off beat now. So we broke this story just a couple of days ago. Why are you laughing? What is going on? What, you're so weird today.
Oh, continue.
So we broke this story earlier in this week. I translated an article that was from the Sankei News, in which Furukawa talked with the interviewer and talked about the state of the Nintendo Switch, and it got picked up by a couple of different websites. IGN in particular did a couple of articles and a video on it, if I recall correctly. So he talks about the state of the Nintendo Switch and talks about the sales during the holiday season. He says he doesn't give any final numbers because I don't think that the final data is actually out yet. But he says how the Switch sold really well, software sold really well. He gives us an idea where he says that Super Mario Party sold 1.5 million in just the first month in October. Pokemon Let's Go sold 3 million in just the first week. And Smash Bros. Sold 5 million in just the first week. And he also reiterates that they're still aiming to sell 20 million more units in the second year. If I recall correctly, I think that they're up to 11 million pre-holiday time. So they're kind of got 9 million-ish to go.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. And then he said, sort of unprovoked, for lack of a better word, unprovoked. He said, "We are not considering a successor to the console or a price cut at this time." And that was kind of what got picked up by other sites like IGN, because it's a bit of a definitive statement on those two topics. And again, when he said successor, the word that he used in Japanese was a bit vague. It could be new model, as in a Switch Pro or something like that, and it could also be a new generation console. It's vague enough that it could be interpreted either way. I spoke to a couple of my friends who are native Japanese speakers from birth just to confirm this, and both of them said if I had to choose one or the other of which he's saying, it's next generation console, like N64 to GameCube kind of thing. And that's also the way I read it as well. So just throwing out that little tidbit there because I didn't write that in the article. And, just thought if you're a listener, you want to get a little bit of insider information, especially from somebody who might have written the article or translated it. So, thank you for being a listener. That's all. So anyway, that's all cool stuff. He also says what we already knew, wants smart device business to continue being a means of supporting their revenue. And at the very end, he said that they're increasing their intensity in obtaining and keeping highly skilled workers. Currently, it's good economic times in Japan in particular, so the interviewer asked if it's difficult to keep talent when the situations are good economically and talent has so many different options to go to. So it was all in all a very dense and information-packed interview, as these Furukawa interviews tend to be. What do you think about this, Galen?
Well, first off, I want to say very nice translation.
Oh, thank you.
Very good flow of how everything transcribed down.
Thank you very much, because actually when these things come out, they come out and we're like, whoa, gotta translate it like right now. And so I'm always rushing through it and I'm always like, oh God, I don't like the way this sounds, don't like the way that sounds. And of course I proofread it and everything. And I don't know, by the end of it, I'm like, man, I wish I had like another hour to like take a walk, come back to it and maybe rewrite some of it, because it just doesn't sound super great to me. But you don't
even have that hour.
Right. You don't have that luxury. So you just got to kind of put it out and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you anyway.
Breaking down the article itself, so I feel like the first and the second point can kind of be linked together. So the stats that he gave, I mean, those are just stats. There's not much to interpret from them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really glad to hear that Mario Party, Pokemon, and Smash Bros. Ultimate are selling well.
Yeah.
We kind of knew that they were going to, but to see the level of success that they are trying to achieve, or that they are achieving,
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. It's very reaffirming.
Yeah.
To kind of hear that stuff. His comment, though, about not considering a successor or a price cut at this time, I don't think that was as unprovoked as it may have come across. There have been a lot of external articles and rumors and everything that you would want to consider about them coming out with the next generation Xbox, them coming out with like the PlayStation 5. It's whispers on the wind right now, and I feel like he's kind of nipping this in the bud, saying that from Nintendo standpoint, hey, listen, we're not considering the Switch as like a stopgap, and we're already thinking about the next console because we want to be in line with what our competitors are doing. I took that statement more from a standpoint of, we are Nintendo, we are doing our own thing, we are taking our time to do it the way that we want to. Kind of like what I said earlier in the podcast, that is very much how they have done their business from day one.
Yeah, I can see how you could interpret it in that manner.
But I very, very strongly believe that this comment at the end was to indirectly refer to those other rumors that are floating around about their competitors right now.
Yeah, perhaps.
Going down the list, the stuff about the smartphones kind of links back to his previous comments about we are really focusing in on wanting to expand our mobile network, and we believe that this is definitely an avenue that we want to get into. One part of your translation that struck out at me was that we are in the midst of accumulating experiences in the field, which I believe is what led to the question about progressively difficult keeping talented workers.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He was basically just kind of saying, like, my interpretation of that was that he was saying we're learning how the smart device market works, because it's totally different than what we do with our consoles, and we're learning how to get better at it, how to make better games, how to generate more consistent revenue, just kind of like that thing.
No, I feel like a lot of what he was quoting here was kind of reaffirming and re-quoting, if you will, his previous interview. I do find it interesting that he put that tidbit about the not thinking about a successor for the Switch. I'm also very interested in his quote about keeping the employees and keeping the talent in Nintendo, on how he's he's not really finding an issue with that.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the least interesting, or at least the least important part to us as consumers. That's more of a business aspect kind of thing.
Yeah.
It leads to them making games and whatnot, but sort of a different category.
It says to me that Nintendo is still a very appealing market and a place that people will want to come and work for, which I know that's a weird thing to say.
No, I don't think so.
But yeah, no, Nintendo is a good company who wants to do right by their employees so they can do right by the people that they are providing products to.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere on the internet fairly recently that Nintendo as a company is one of the most important, in terms of economics, one of the most important companies for Japan. Not like number 1 or number 2, but I mean like top 5 maybe, or definitely top 10.
Well, I mean, Mario did show up at the Olympics, so...
Mamma mia!
So I want to talk about a little bit more news that we got this week. Just some brief little things. One of my favorite bits of news this week is Square-Enix filed a trademark for the term HD 2D in Europe. Now this is the art style used to describe Octopath Traveler's visuals. And we do know that the team that developed Octopath Traveler is currently working on original titles for the Switch. Several, in fact. And when I read this, I looked like that Kermit the Frog gif where he's just flailing his arms around. That was me. And I'm just super hype, and please develop this art style and make all new kinds of offshoots from it, make all new games and stories, and I just want this so much. Just give it to me.
Yeah. And part of me almost wishes that they didn't trademark it, because I think HD 2D is the perfect way to sum up that kind of an art style. And I believe more indie games that we are seeing want to kind of use that type of style. They might not have the budget that Square Enix has, but I definitely like the idea of it trying to describe a game and describe how a game feels, and just to say, well, it's like an HD 2D graphics game. I wish more companies would have had access to that, but that's just a personal preference, to be completely honest. They can go and find their own way to try to describe their game.
Yeah,
so.
I think that's a really interesting point of view. I hadn't thought about that at all. Something I had heard before in a lot of indie games that are using a very strong pixel art aesthetic is they refer to their games as high resolution pixel art, or something along that line. And
like a high res pixel.
Yeah, high res pixel art or something like that. So I don't think that it's really going to affect developers not being able to use the term HD 2D, but that is an interesting aspect that you bring up.
Yeah. But I think we're nitpicking at this point, because the important thing is that we're going to be getting more games that look like Octopath Traveler.
Yeah!
That is the important takeaway here.
Right. Now, something that isn't HD 2D is Mortal Kombat 11. So we're talking a little bit about Mortal Kombat 11's visuals. The producer for Mortal Kombat 11, Trevor Traub, was interviewed recently, and he talked a little bit about the Switch build, and he was really positive when he talked about it. Of course, he's got to be positive. It's marketing, blah, blah, blah. But he sounded genuine, and he mentioned how there is a studio called Shiver Studios that is working on the Switch version, and that it is being co-developed alongside the other versions. Particularly interesting to me is the quote from Trevor Traub when asked about how Mortal Kombat 11 will be downgraded on Switch without compromising on the frame rate. And he says, quote, "There are special geometry reductions that happen to make it work on the Switch," end quote. That sounds good to me. Like, I'm very cautiously optimistic about this. I really hope this game turns out to be good on Switch, and more importantly, of course, that it runs at 60 frames per second. It's a fast fighter. It needs that. I don't care if the visuals need to be downgraded at all. I'm sure it's still going to look fine, but it needs that 60 FPS.
Well, and I think that calling it special geometry reductions is the nice way of saying it's going from 1080p to 720. I'm sure that because the frame rates and everything that they're doing on that don't rely too heavily on the graphics. Most of it is what the processing power can actually do. So if it can run at 60 frames docked, it should be possible to play it in handheld mode. Mario Kart, for example, was a great example of a game that was able to keep up that frame rate no matter which way you were playing it. I believe Smash Bros is also in that same boat as well. So yeah, I feel like this is just a different term of saying that they're doing the same kind of tricks to make sure that they are prioritizing on that frame rate.
So my thought actually on that, though, is not necessarily about resolution. I'm sure it's not going to be 1080p 60 frames per second. I mean, it'd be super cool if it was, but yeah. I don't think that that's what he was referring to. My interpretation of that was that he was referring to actual geometry, like actual character geometry or background geometry, reducing the amount of polygons and therefore reducing the amount of stuff that needs to be rendered each frame to hit that 60 frames target easier.
Yeah. Well, and also, if you're at the point where you're actually getting into the game and focusing more on the mechanics of it, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't even notice between the two.
Yeah, it's a fast fighter. It's going to be moving real quick, and that's why those things I don't think you'll notice, or you'll barely notice. It's not really going to affect you. What is going to affect you is if that thing runs at 30 frames, not 60 frames, and that's going to be troublesome.
Yeah. What I am interested by this quote is that they are having the Switch version of the game being built by Shiver Studios.
Yeah, you looked into that a little bit. Why don't you tell me about it? What's your findings, Mr. Reporter?
So, nothing. So, from what I can find, Shiver Studios was established back in 2017, and I have not been able to find a game that they have published or worked on as the primary developer.
Interesting. Do you know anything about who the parent company is or anything like that?
I know nothing. A lot of what I was finding was directly from their website. And it's interesting because if you go to their website, it will actually say, "We know our game." And I'm going to quote directly from the website. Shiver leadership has led some of the industry's largest companies and helped shape some of its most successful franchises, including Madden, FIFA, Call of Duty, Guitar Hero, and Zynga's, I know I'm saying that wrong, Ville games. It's like Farmville and a lot of those mobile games. This company wasn't the one that developed any of those games. They're talking about their two chairman, John Shapert and Jason Anderson. So they've worked on other projects. They're bringing that leadership potential to it, but it's hard to say because we know absolutely nothing about this studio.
That's interesting. Yeah, maybe we should look into this a little bit more. We can do some investigative reporting.
Yeah. And another thing is, from his quote, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit on this one. He starts out by saying, "I actually really like the Switch build. I like the Joy-Con controller more than I thought." But then later in the interview goes on to say, when he's talking about Shiver, they're developing it at the same time as us, so it's sort of a co-development. There's no lead SKU. I can't wait because I play on Xbox, but I will have the Switch version too for practice. So,
I think it just means that for the portability factor. I don't read into that much more than that.
You're not reading into it as like personal preference on that or anything?
Not really. I think it's more just like with the quote before about like, oh, the Switch version's great. It's going real good. Like that's just him like promoting, oh,
just kind of hyping
Xbox,
it up too.
It's great. You know what I mean? That's what I read it as. I don't think anything else.
No, I thought it was interesting that, and there's nothing bad about giving it to a new team developer. New teams are definitely a good thing. But I just thought it was interesting that we know nothing about these other guys. So,
something I want to point out too, just from working in the video game industry, is that there's a lot of companies that work, for a lack of a better term, sort of a ghostwriter. As a ghost writer, not ghost writer. Okay, we're not all. Why did I say Tom Cruise? The one who seems crazier but actually isn't crazy. Nicolas Cage. Thank you. Anyway, there are ghost writers of studios that work to translate, to work on small development things, to work on ports, stuff like that, and they don't ever get the credit or the forefront publicity that they deserve. And sometimes they don't even get credited in the actual credits of a video game. I know that I have contributed to some works out there that my name doesn't appear in the credits at all. So, so that could be the case for this Shiver Studios, but I don't know. That's just another way of, not another way of looking at it, but perhaps a different take on that situation.
And you know what? These were also just my personal findings. I mean, I'm going to reach out to you listeners if I'm wrong, and if I definitely missed something, which is entirely possible.
Send us a cranky email.
Yeah, send us an email, leave us a YouTube comment, because I love reading those. I'd love to know that I'm wrong if that's the case.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to sit around and be wrong all day, right? I don't.
Well, I usually am, but...
I still love you anyway.
Aw, friends.
So moving on to our next little brief of news is some patent nonsense, or as people with British English say, patent. So Nintendo filed another patent recently. Check out our website for the image and stuff. It looks super dumb. It is, quote, a device that can see where users are looking in order to deliver the optimal 3D viewing angle. And it's mostly used with TVs, I guess. The patent is actually a continuation of other patent applications dating as far back as 2010. To me, it sounds like a Kinect, but in 3D. And statistically, all of these patent things that companies, not just Nintendo, put out there don't amount to anything. So I never really like talking about patents too much because it's probably not going to be anything. What do you think?
So it's hard to say. I'm going to shoot for the stars a little bit on this one, but
oh my god,
looking at the patent and looking at what they're trying to do, and knowing that this is something they've been working on for a while, I'm a little interested if this is going to be part of their plan coming up for the 3DS and to make it more viable. I know that spectacle-less 3D TV has actually been out for quite a while. So that kind of technology is actually what makes the 3DS possible, as far as diverting the images in a way to kind of trick your mind on how things work. What I am reading into this is the potential on how they can make a Super Game Boy for 3DS games.
I see what you're saying, but we already have this kind of technology in the actual 3DS, or something very similar to it in the new 3DS, I should say.
But even with that still being said, the sensors built into the 3DS are registering how close your face is and how close everything is to the actual screen. If you're setting that up on a TV, that's a lot more distance, and you need a much more accurate camera in order to track where your eyes are.
Yeah.
So using a pair of glasses such as this, and you don't even need lenses in this either. I mean, it's literally just focusing in on that dot.
Yeah, it said something about like some sort of peripheral, whether it's glasses or whatever, could be used to improve the experience, but it's not necessary or something. To me, it sounds like Nintendo Labo stuff.
And that might entirely be. I see this as a way for them to create a device for the Nintendo Switch while it is in the dock to be able to play 3DS games on your television and still experience the 3D element of those games.
I think that's more complicated, though, in terms of development, because it's the second screen, right?
Well, and that was exactly what I was about to get to.
Oh, sorry. Maybe I shouldn't be a jackass and interrupt you all the time.
This very accurately does not solve the issue of how do you get a second screen with touchscreen capabilities available to the user. So that it's a way, there are ways you can get around that. For example, come out with a controller to go along with this peripheral that would give that second screen on your controller. I don't know. It's...
This is why I don't think it amounts to anything. There's no like tangible thing that we can put it together as, and they put out this stuff all the time. I don't think it's nothing.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I would like to see if this goes anywhere. I don't think that it will, just because the history of patents doesn't really go much of anywhere.
I think it's interesting back in like 2009, but like this kind of gimmick is not interesting anymore. Xbox dropped the Kinect in terms of integral hardware from their current generation console. People don't care or want it really anymore.
Exactly. Well, and that was for motion gaming. This isn't for motion gaming.
It says in the patent that it can be used for motion gaming. It says you can dodge stuff or whatever.
In order to improve the tracking capabilities of the camera, user wears marker on glasses.
Down. It was near the end.
Viewpoint movement detection can provide collision-related game logic benefits, such as allowing the player to dodge particles.
Yeah, that's
give a character the ability to see. Okay, I see.
It's
I see
the
what
3D
you're saying.
Connect.
I missed that part. Okay, yeah, this means nothing. This is crap.
Wow, I wish you would have gotten to that point like 2 minutes ago.
I still hold true to my idea of making a super 3DS boy.
Yeah, that'd be cool, but I don't think this is it. This is not the one.
Hey, it could be steps to get there. Hope and dream, Oni.
So moving on to our next bit of hope and dreams is a little bit of information about Dragon Quest XI-S for the Nintendo Switch. A little bit of goodies there. Just a little bit of information. We just got some new footage from the game, the Switch version, on a live stream, and it showed some various story scenes. Apparently the Switch version of the game will have additional scenarios, but Square-Enix has not yet shared any details on that. Plus, 14 new Japanese voice actors were revealed for the game, and so we now know a total of 23 voice actors that will be in the game, and there should still be more to come. So you can check out our website for the new footage and the full list of the 23 voice actors that we know so far.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to ask you for a translation on that video later, because it seemed fun. See, I'd love to know what they were saying, but the entire thing was spoken and written in Japanese.
It was just like little story things for each character, and honestly, the context.
I kind of figured as much.
The context is not there, so I don't think I'd be able to provide an accurate translation by any means. So
yeah,
just skip it. Don't give me more stuff to do. Okay, I'm busy.
I just want to know about the Purple Mermaid at the end of the thing.
Dude, have you seen all of the exclusive translations that we've been putting out at Nintendo Everything? I am busy.
You are busy.
Yeah, what?
Take a ticket.
Oh, I like that. I'm gonna use that. And then moving on to our big last bit of news is the Nindie Showcase that happened earlier this week. So I checked it out actually recently because I was so busy I didn't get to see it live. We started out with some Bayonetta voice announcer, and I loved it. Like, give me that, yes, please. And it was a very fast-paced presentation. It was a really good watch, a good use of time. It was about 16-ish minutes long, and I think they introduced like 8 or 9 games as highlights.
Yeah, it went by pretty quickly, all things considered. They didn't do that whole, hey, we're going to explain all the different aspects of each game. It was like, no, here's a series of trailers for all these indie games that are coming up, which it's exactly what it should have been for a highlight reel. It's here are the highlights of what's coming up.
The game is fun.
The game is good.
Do you remember that from the E3 presentation in 2018? Like, Reggie just like walked out of nowhere into IKEA furniture place, and he was like, the game is fun. And I was like, what is happening? Can you go back to the action mechs, please?
I love how he kept switching locations, and it was like, Reggie on a beach, Reggie in the office, Reggie on green screen. Remind me of that old Wayne's World bit where they get a green screen and it's like, now we're in Milwaukee.
Oh my god. Wow, I have not thought about that in like 20 years. Wow.
Somebody out there, make that. Please make that. I will pay you money.
Excellent. So I thought that we would talk about a few games that we liked from the presentation.
Yeah, they had some good ones on there.
Yeah, actually, all of them looked really good. Some of them weren't for me, but all of them looked really good. Mm-hmm. Like, high-quality stuff. Of course, starting off, though, is Wargroove. This is a game that everybody's been looking to for a long time.
Give me my Fantasy Advanced Wars, please.
Yeah. This game finally not only has a launch date, it's also ready for pre-purchase on the eShop, and it's coming out super soon. It comes out February 1st.
It comes out in less than a week.
I know, out of nowhere. And before, remember in the podcast, the listeners before will notice, like I was saying last week or the week before, is this game even going to come out this year? Yes, resounding yes. So developer and publisher Chucklefish is releasing this February 1st. And for those of you who don't know what Wargroove is, it is a turn-based tactics RPG. You can play as 12 different commanders, each with their own campaign, personalities, and motivations. It has online and local multiplayer, including versus and co-op modes. There's a map creator, there's an overworld editor, you can create branching paths. I wrote down baths in my notes. Not baths, paths. And then it's also got that high-res pixel art that we were talking about a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyone who is a fan of Advance Wars must play this game, or must check it out by some degree. It looks absolutely incredible. It looks better than Advance Wars. Don't come after me, okay? Do not tweet me. It looks better than Advance Wars.
It looks so good.
And the opening cinematic, that anime cinematic, did you see it in the trailer? It is so hype. That reminds me so much of Legend of Korra. It was a great anime.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Yeah, this game looks phenomenal. I've always been a huge fan of tactical RPGs, so...
Boy, have you.
Oh god, yeah. One of the first games I have ever played, period, was Shining Force
I knew,
for the Sega, which was a tactical RPG. I literally grew up on that crap.
You can't literally grow up on that crap. You can figuratively grow up on it. I'm calling you out for misuse of literal. Drives me nuts.
I ate the game cartridge.
No, if you were literally growing up on that game, you would have to have the game cartridge underneath you, and you became a plant and you grew up on.
Get this game; it's phenomenal.
Wargroove looks great.
Wargroove looks amazing. Look into this game; it is going to be phenomenal. I already have mine pre-ordered.
Yeah, I got mine pre-purchased, and it's raring to go. And it's cheap, isn't it? It's like $20. I forgot how much I bought it for.
It's super cheap, yeah.
Something like that. So, yeah, check it.
Mm-hmm.
So another game I was super hyped about is Inmost. It is coming sometime in 2019, apparently coming first to Switch. So when I first heard about this game for Steam, I was really hyped. I loved what I was seeing, and I was hoping, maybe one day it'll come to Switch. And boy, is it happening. I actually audibly screamed when this came out of nowhere in the presentation. It's an absolutely gorgeous looking game. It's 2D, atmospheric, story-driven game, and it's got some action platformer stuff happening, puzzle platformer stuff happening. Lots of similarities to the 2D HD that we were talking about earlier. There's apparently 3 playable characters and 1 interconnecting story. This game is also by Chucklefish.
I was getting some serious Hollow Knight vibes when I was watching this. I am very excited about this game.
But it seems that your characters are humans.
Yeah.
With mythological creatures, not mythological, but it's creepy creatures. Little bugs and stuff.
Yeah, for the atmosphere of the game, for the way that the game looks like it plays, as far as how smooth it is. Oh my god, I want to play this game. This game looks so good.
Yeah, there's a lot of great visual effects happening that you don't associate with 2D pixel art games. Kind of the same thing like Octopath Traveler, right? I love that. Like, explore how to do art in different ways. Do that.
Exactly.
But yeah, there's this like feeling of dread going throughout the game, so I'm all about that. Make me sad. I live in the sad. And a third game that I was super interested in is Unruly Heroes, which is out now. It is based on Chinese mythology, and my guess is maybe Journey to the West, probably. Lots of stuff is. I was also excited when I heard about this for Steam, so super glad it's coming to Switch. It's an action platformer with incredible visual style. It looks like an Ubi art game. You remember like Rayman?
I'm really glad you said that, because I actually have in my notes here getting some excited Rayman Legend vibes here.
Yeah, it's like Child of Light and Rayman Legends, and I mean, Ubisoft has that awesome, gorgeous engine, and they're doing nothing with it. Like, that makes me so upset. Anyway, this game looks great. It's reminded me a bit of Guacamelee, if any listeners have played that game. That game's great.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's lots of character and wackiness to the visuals, and I'm not sure if it's level-based or Metroidvania in terms of progression, but either way, I'm down for it.
Exactly. A couple games that really struck out for me. Double Kick Heroes, surprisingly. I'm going to read you the joke that I wrote down for this one.
What a great way to tell a joke. Everybody ready? Joke number 1.
Is everybody ready?
Ready for the joke? Here comes. Here, ready?
What do you get if George Romero and Mad Max creator George Miller had a baby and it was raised by Harmonix and Red Octane? You get this game.
Oh, that's nice. That's good. Not so much a joke, but more of a creative description or of sorts. I like it. I appreciate it.
You appreciate that?
Yeah,
Nice. Cool.
Nice.
It's a nice thing.
A nice thing.
No, this game looks freaking insane. Like, what is even going on? You've got a band riding on the back of some sort of chopped up car shooting whatever happens to be chasing it, and it's a rhythm-based game? What?
Yeah, it's a metal rhythm shooter. It reminds me of Theatrhythm.
That sounds amazing. Why has this not been done before?
Yeah, and that game is coming summer 2019.
Yeah. Another game that really kind of struck out at me was Crosscode, actually.
Yeah, I had a feeling you'd be into this one.
That was the one that was... It's a 2D top-down action RPG. I got a lot of Legend of Zelda vibes from it, from the top-down perspective. It seems very precise with its gameplay, just from what I saw in the demo, and I'm excited about it. That was my overall thing about this entire indie highlights, was I was excited about almost everything that they were talking about. Even some of the games like Goat Simulator, I was like, okay, really? But there was nothing that I was unhappy about with what they were talking about.
Yeah.
This entire presentation was amazing.
I like how well Nintendo treats its indie developers and promotes them. I think we've seen amazing sales for indie developers on the Nintendo Switch platform in particular, and so I think that they need to continue that relationship and foster that relationship.
And there are so many great indie games on the Switch. Like,
there really are, and they play so well on the Switch because of the portability. So good.
That sizzle reel that they had at the very end, where it was like, here's Celeste, here's Enter the Gungeon, here's Wizard of Legend, here's Owl Boy, here's... I was like, oh my god, slow down. I'm actually getting heart palpitations here with everything you're throwing at me. Near-death experience, and I convey my excitement.
Death by Nindies.
Death by Nindies. Spectacles.
So that does it for the news, but let's move on to additional DLC. This week, my additional DLC is a game called Chained Echoes. This is a game that's not out yet. It's still in development. Why am I talking about it? Because they are going to be releasing a Kickstarter pretty soon, on February 5th, in fact. This is a classic 2D turn-based RPG with swords, magic, and mechs. Those are all of my jams.
I'm okay with that.
Super, super okay with that. Now, this game, when I look at it, it reminds me of Chrono Trigger at times, the way that the battle system is set up. And the game has some of the most gorgeous pixel art I've ever seen. Now, I know that a lot of people throw that kind of assessment around, but truly, when you look at this game, you can see so much love and so much polish in the visuals. There is a Switch stretch goal for the game, though it's a Kickstarter game, right? Where a lot of people can be skeptical about that. This is a game that I am going on record right now saying, no, this is the legit real deal. This is one of the very, very, very few Kickstarter games that have actually given me shivers, like Hollow Knight, Shovel Knight, and Earthlock. This is one to watch out for. February 5th is their Kickstarter. Check out our description below for the link to their website so you can see more and read more about this game. Galen, what do you got on your additional DLC?
So mine's a little bit more somber. Matt Pat's game theory on They Stole $1.7 million. So say what you will about Matt Pat and his content. Personally, I am a big fan of his show Game Theory and Film Theory. This particular episode really breaks away from that format, and it goes over more of the controversy on what happened with the multi-channel network Defy Media. I won't go into the details now. If you're interested in hearing about it, I highly recommend you watching the video. He does start the beginning of the video a little bit for a recap on his personal life, so there's like a vlog element to it. But the majority of what the video is about is explaining what happened with this company that was supposed to help content creators and supposed to be a shared platform for everybody to grow by, basically running a Ponzi scheme to make themselves look bigger than they actually were, and then hightailing it with everybody's money. And it's not just from MatPat directly. There were, I think he said, a total of 50 other channels that were affected by this. They worked for all of their money, and now they don't have any of it because the company that was supposed to divvy that money out to people are now gone. I do want to spread awareness of this because I do feel like this is an issue not only for content creators, but just as a general cautionary tale.
So now we're going to move on to our listener mail. Say something.
Listener mail.
There we go.
Listener mail.
If you want to send us an email, and I'm not forgetting to give you a reminder about it, like I have like the last 4 weeks in a row. If you want to send us an email, that email is nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com. What's the email, Galen?
That email is nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com.
This week, we got an email from John. John sent us over this really interesting picture of Mario that I will definitely link in the description because this is an audio podcast. So, of course, you need the visual to go along with it. This comes from a blog post from August 2017 from a website called simplelove.jp. And this image comes from an issue of Famicom Tsushin, which was a magazine back in the day, where there is an image of like a very buff Mario looking like he works at a gay steel mill or something like that. That's a Simpsons reference if you know it. And it's like a zoologist kind of image of him where like parts of his body are like showing through to the insides of it, so you can see his bone in a certain area, you can see his lungs in a certain area. And John wanted to know, what the hell does this say, because he likes the look of it. He's like, what, this is wacky. And yes, John, you are right, it is wacky. So I just kind of looked over it and glanced over some of the details. There's little arrows pointing to certain parts of him. So to his arm, to his leg, to his feet, to his cap, that kind of stuff. So here's some details that this joke of an article, or not even article, image says. And this is some Mario lore for you. This is real good stuff. Mario apparently has modified high-speed molars. Talking molars in his teeth that help him run fast.
What?
Yeah. Sometimes it causes gum damage too. He also has a special skeleton that helps him grow and shrink for when he eats a mushroom, of course. And apparently he got it off of a TV infomercial at a good price.
What?
It gets better. He also has oxygen tanks for lungs. And this explains why you can breathe underwater.
Oh, that's absolutely canon.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that was common.
I mean, that's just logical.
Obviously.
Like everybody, like, let's be serious, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He also only thinks about saving the princess, and that's why his head looks kind of small when he's got his cap on, because there's not a whole lot going on under there. That might be old canon.
Possibly. I can still stand by that. I can see how that's a thing.
He also has the most anime title ever, Almighty Nuclear Power Fists.
You've done it. You've actually done it.
He also has a mechanically engineered stomach that breaks down fire flowers so he can use fireballs. So apparently he's eating the fire flowers. What a revelation!
Everything makes so much sense now.
I know, this is true Mario lore. This is the nitty-gritty.
It's taking the red pill and seeing the actual Matrix. It's the truth.
And then the final note that I have written down here is that he has spring-coiled bones in his feet that give him his jumping power.
Now that one I believe.
Absolutely fascinating stuff.
Where did this come from?
It came from Famicom Tsushin, from an old magazine. So that's awesome. And this blog post, simplelove.jp, which we'll have links to in the description, posted it back in August of 2017. So big thank you to them. And thank you, John, for also emailing us.
This is amazing. Yes, thank you. Send us more stuff like this. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. So remember, if you guys want to send us an email, talk to us about anything. You can send us an email at nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com. So for what's coming up, what's coming out on the website, we got Furukawa Nonsense that just came out, so check out our features on our website. We've also got some Sakurai Smash tweets that we translated earlier in the week as well. We've also got the Super Smash Bros. Nintendo Dream interview with Sakurai. That should be coming out sometime very soon. I think it'll be out by the time that this podcast is out. If it's not, you got a little teaser right here. It's coming out real soon. It was a good collaborative effort between me and another translator, so we can get it out on time just for all you lovely people. And one more reminder about the Big Old Fat Phantasy Star interview that I translated. That's been out for a week. Just check out our website on the top bar. We got features there. There's been a lot of hardcore fans and readers that are commenting and really enjoying it, and it makes me very happy to hear that people are enjoying this content that I slaved over. I didn't slave over it. It just took a long time because I had a lot of stuff going on, so it felt like I was working on it for a really long time. But it did take a while.
Yeah.
Check it out. It's good stuff.
Nice.
And then also coming up, we've got lots more exclusive stuff and translations planned for later in the week and well into next week. So we're really busy here. So just keep checking out Nintendo Everything. And that website is nintendoeverything.com. We also have our Twitter. That's at nineverything. We also got our YouTube, of course. That's youtube.com/nineverything. And then I also have my almighty Twitter, my almighty nuclear fist power, I don't remember what the word was, Twitter, at Oni_Dino. So Galen, how about you? What's going on in Galen Land? Not as exciting as Nintendo Land, by the way.
Not as exciting. So I have my own secret project that I have been working on for the past couple of months. It is going to have its grand reveal very soon. I'm very happy about it and very proud at what I've got going on. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave the rest of it a surprise at this point. If you would like to hear more details on what I've got going on, definitely follow me at Mobius087.
Yeah, send him some tweets and follow him and stuff, especially if you think that I'm a jerk and Galen's a nice one and I need to stop being so mean to him.
Hashtag free Galen. And actually, send me all of the Magikarps that you didn't send to Oni. I've been starting to keep a collection going on.
I swear to God, if you get more Magikarps than I do,
I'm gonna get those Magikarps like no one ever did.
This is the end of the show right now.
To train them is my real test.
So your real test, actually, dear listeners, is to give us a rating on iTunes. If you give us a 5-star rating, then we get found by more people. That helps us out immensely. And of course, leave us comments. Share this with anybody that you think would enjoy it. All that good stuff. We greatly appreciate you helping us spread the word.
Mm-hmm. Especially those comments. I personally love reading everything that gets thrown on those.
So remember, for everything Nintendo,
stay tuned to Nintendo Everything.
Bye-bye.
Later, everyone.